Hey, Rolling Out family, this is Eddie Precise Lamar, and welcome to Art and Culture. Today we speak with Victoria Vann, Westchester Village trustee, community advocate, and a driving force behind the Village Juneteenth Fest. As Westchester celebrates both Juneteenth and its 100th anniversary, Vann reflects on the power of heritage, unity, and progress. From curating a diverse lineup of performers to honoring and growing a vibrant Black community, she shares how this two-day celebration serves as both a cultural milestone and a personal mission to uplift and connect. Victoria, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm amazing. Excited to talk to you. So, this year's Juneteenth Fest marks both a National Day of Liberation and Westchester's 100th anniversary. What does it mean to you to bring these two moments together in a single celebration?
You know, it's impactful. It's meaningful. Westchester's been around for 100 years, and as of 2022, Westchester started celebrating Juneteenth celebration because I brought it to the Village of Westchester as the trustee for the Village of Westchester. So now that we're entering into our 100th year of being incorporated and now having Juneteenth as one of our standing celebrations, it's a true reflection of how far Westchester has developed and has come, and how we are now not only celebrating diversity, but being able to begin to practice equity and inclusion.
Yes, indeed. So as you mentioned, you led the first Juneteenth celebration in Westchester. What inspired you to start it, and how have you seen it grow and resonate with the community since then?
That's a great question. So I was newly elected official, first time ever running for office. And believe it or not, I was elected. And thank you. And I was traveling to other Juneteenth celebrations in the Proviso Township area because I am a huge advocate on cultural activities, cultural education, and definitely what you would call Black excellence, right? And what that looks like. So it dawned on me, like, I'm celebrating, my culture in other communities where I know that in my community that I was elected for and represent, because I was elected, so that means there's some representation there, right? That why are we not doing that in my community? So that's when it kind of like dawned on me, like, hey, we're doing this. And so I was maybe a month into office, and I called President Rebel, who's the president now of the Village of Westchester, and I basically was like, hey, we're doing some sort of celebration ceremony to honor Juneteenth. He was like, okay. It was like, we're going to raise a flag. We're going to do something. And it was like, maybe 2 weeks, I had to kind of put everything together before the actual June 19th hit. And I thought the easiest and most impactful event to do was to do a flag raising ceremony. So I bought the Juneteenth flag and, gathered everybody together in the community, and other elected officials came out, and we raised, the first time ever in the Village of Westchester, the Juneteenth flag that flew in front of the Village Hall. And why that's so important is because as of 1930s, there was a deed restriction in place where residents couldn't sell their home to persons of color in the Village of Westchester. So the Village of Westchester has come extremely far. And there was a time where, there was conversation of, is the Village of Westchester ready for a person of color, African-American person, to be an elected seat, to now having, 3 or 4 elected officials now that have sat in, an elected seat, helping to govern the Village of Westchester. So we're coming, and again, we've come so far and we're continuing to grow. And it was so instrumental, Eddie, because I literally heard, residents saying, finally, I see myself in this community. Finally, yes. I feel like I have a voice in this community. Finally, I feel like I'm a part of this community and feel respected in this community that I love and purchased a home here and raised my kids here. So, you know, it's more than just a raising of the flag and things of that nature. It hits home. It's more of a evolution of who we are as African Americans. And we're celebrating our culture, and we're letting everyone know that we're here in the village of Westchester and our culture matters, you know, and we want to be seen and heard, and we want to be treated fairly. And I think that's what's happening now. You know, I'm really honored to serve alongside with President Rebo, because he was totally for it. He could have been, you know, against it. He was totally for it and has been completely supportive. And so has the village staff, you know, and so I'm really honored to be able to work with individuals that believe in the mission as much as I do.
Yes, yes. So just to provide some context, because rolling out is national, Westchester is right outside of Chicago. Like, what would you say, 40 minutes?
Yeah, well, I would say about 30 minutes, maybe 40, 45 with traffic sometimes.
So, so the city itself, I mean, the village itself has become more diverse in recent years with a significant Black population. Now, how's that shift shaped your advocacy work and the kinds of initiatives you've prioritized as a village trustee?
So what I wanted to do was do what I've always been doing, which has always been advocating for the voiceless, advocating for those who are underserved, underrepresented, marginalized communities. And so that didn't change when I got elected. I just thought that now I need to use this platform to build that out more in the village so that we could begin to not only just be neighbors, but now we can begin to really learn from one another and grow in a more inclusive community. So in doing that, it takes a lot of education, because one thing I didn't want to do was just to force feed, you know, education, cultural education. That never goes well when you force someone to, you know, into your culture or whatever, and vice versa. That's with anybody, right? You have to meet people exactly where they are. So how I approached it shifted a little bit, because I had to step back and start to really begin to educate and model what I was actually trying to demonstrate in the community, right? So making sure that I highlighted, you know, African Americans or Latinos or, you know, Asian Americans in the community doing great work, or having, you know, events that were more cultural events that were around education, you know, while celebrating, you know, the standard American, you know, history events like the 4th of July, you know, things of that nature. And meeting people around veteran issues, because those issues relate to anybody, regardless of race, gender, class. If you're a veteran, you're a veteran. You fought for this country so that we can enjoy the freedoms and liberties that we have now as Americans. And so using those platforms to bring everybody together helps us to begin to learn from one another, to respect one another, and it begins to break down some of the stereotypes or maybe implicit biases that were there. And so when you actually take time and say, I'm here for the community, then people show up for you because they understand you're here for everyone. And that's really what my goal is. But I am very much so unapologetically African-American woman, right? And I don't waver from that. But I understand that, you know, at the end of the day, that it's going to take a whole village of us to come together to be able to support one another and grow this community to the capacity that we want it to grow to, right? So I guess in short, my strategy has been, let's focus on the community, regardless of what nationality or ethnicity they are. And once you do that work and you focus on the community, everything else just kind of lines in, right? Whatever we have a common invested interest in, Eddie, is what I'm saying. We all want a nice home. We want to send our kids to good schools. We want to feel safe. We want to make sure that, the community that we're in is safe. We want to be able to provide for our family. Those are all essential needs that, regardless of a race, class, or gender, we all want. And so if we start from that baseline, then we can move forward together on other issues. And that's kind of been my approach. What's the common denominator?
So the Freedom Walk and the flag ceremony are powerful symbols. Can you speak to their significance and how they set the tone for the entire celebration?
So the Freedom Walk is significant because it represents what happened at June 19th when the slaves were actually realized that they were free. They did essentially a freedom walk and walked off, off the plantation into Galveston, and then, confirmed, like, is this true? And saw the notices and realized this is true, and went to go celebrate at a church, because that's where African Americans do. We gather at churches, right? You know what I mean? And so the Freedom Walk represents that. It's very much so historical and linking the purpose and the reason behind that Freedom Walk. So when I have the Freedom Walk here in the village of Westchester, we're literally walking through the community of all nationalities, chanting unity, celebrating freedom, celebrating liberty, and walking to the village hall to raise the Juneteenth flag.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as a mom, a community leader, and a founder of a foundation supporting diverse learners, what legacy do you hope to leave both through this event and your work in Westchester?
That's a great question. Again, that's a really good question. The legacy that I hope that I'm leaving, because I'm very conscious of that and intentional, is that I want to make sure I'm a mother first of a young, beautiful, handsome 13-year-old football player. and I'm a proud football mom. And, I know that unfortunately, a lot of our African American men, boys, are targeted. There's been a lot of injustice done to the African American community in general, particularly our African American men. So what I would hope is that the legacy that I'm leaving is that I'm leaving a legacy to show my son and other kids that look like my son that they too can fight against all odds. Do not give up. You have a voice. Tell your story. Be proud of who you are and where you come from. And make sure that you give back. Make sure that you are a part of the community that you not only live in, but that you serve. Get involved. Become a civic leader. Make sure that the person next to you is doing well, just like you are. That is what I would want. I want to make sure that my son realizes that when I created that foundation, I also made sure I had him in mind so that he could understand his family legacy and where he comes from, so that he could stand on my shoulders and then be better than I was and continue on to pursue, greatness and whatever that looks like for him in that capacity. And I want that for all of our kids, honestly, all of our kids.
So how can people learn more about what you're doing and the Juneteenth event that's coming up and anything else that's happening in Westchester?
So there's two ways you can look at it. I'm on social media all the time, not by choice, because I really like to Netflix it out and just chill. But this role has got me having to be here. So yeah. But anyway, so Facebook, it's really my first and last name, Victoria Vann, and Vann is spelled V as in Victoria, ANN. And then also you could go to my trustee page, which is Village of Westchester trustee, Victoria Vann, right? And then on the gram, it is the scholarship fairy because I issue scholarships for diverse learners through my foundation. I know we touched on that, but just a quick pub on that if I could. It's the Eugene Baker Joy Vann Memorial Scholarship Foundation in honor of my grandfather, Gene Baker, who was Chicago Cubs, one of the first Chicago Cubs player. He actually helped to bring in Ernie Banks, and then he became the first African-American baseball manager for the professional league, and that was under Pittsburgh Pirates. And my mother was the first African-American woman to be union president for Local 512, which is American Airlines Union. So advocacy and fighting for people and, that's in my blood. So what I decided to do is to open up a foundation in their honor and provide scholarships to diverse learners. And that just simply means people who learn differently. It doesn't necessarily mean you have a learning disability or anything like that. It just means that maybe you want to be an artist. You don't want to be a doctor. And so you learn a little, more creativity, but you want to go, and pursue some sort of trade or college or university education. My foundation helps to sponsor that. And we do have a bullying prevention program and celebrate unsung heroes. So that being said, the Scholarship Fairy on the gram, you can find me there either under the Scholarship Fairy or V2, V as in Victoria, the number 2. And then that's pretty much it. Or you could go to the Eugene Baker Joy Vann website, and it's an acronym. So it's E as an elephant, B as in ball, J as in Jacob, V as in Victoria.org. You can learn more about the organization there as well. And also apply for scholarships.
Yes, Victoria, you come from greatness. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. And thank you for the work that you're doing. Shining the light on people out here doing the work. It's boots on the ground time,
Yes. Where them fans at? So as Westchester continues to evolve, leaders like Victoria Vann are making sure its legacy includes every voice. The Juneteenth Fest is more than an event. It's a reflection of community strength, its progress, and the people working tirelessly to shape its future. Through advocacy, storytelling, and celebration, Vann is helping Westchester honor its past while stepping boldly into its next century. This is Eddie Precise Lamar. Thank you for joining us at Art and Culture. And as I always say, stay focused, positive, and productive. Peace.